Hello, Year Sixes, and welcome to another week of maths. I was looking this week. We are now on the 14th week of lockdown curriculum that we've sent out. That's a lot of work. So well done you for getting on, doing some great stuff, and I hope that you're enjoying some of it. I hope that these videos are helpful. Well done for tuning in again. And we're going to have a look at some graphs for the first couple of days this week. So you've got some interesting graphs. And the good news for you is there's no drawing of graphs. So it's fairly straightforward. Whoop. You just have to interpret the graphs. All right. And we're going to look at two different graphs in this video, but actually there's a lot of different graphs you're going to be looking at. So you're going to need to carefully read the learning reminders, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow's a bit more about pie charts. And today there are some strange bar charts, so you need to think carefully about them, read them carefully, look at the information you've been given. But to start with, we're just going to look at interpreting a bar chart. So here comes, hopefully, a bar chart. There we go. Okay. Now you might be thinking, hello, Stern, this is very simple. Well, there's a few things here, there's a few skills here that you're using if you think this is very simple that are worth noting. And we're just going to run through those and we're going to ask some questions about this bar chart. So the first thing, obviously, whenever we see a bar chart, we should be asking what's it showing us. Normally, there's a title and that gives us a good clue. And that's the case here. So they obviously surveyed some children about what pet they would like. Now, they only gave them 3 offers. I think it's a bit harsh on guinea pigs, for example, or lovely rats like we've got. But you can see what the children would have chosen. That's what this graph's showing us, okay? Children's choice of pets, okay? So it's what they would have liked. So what do we need to ask about this bar chart? Well, there's some questions, okay? So here are a few questions that you might be able to answer without even thinking about it. How many children chose rabbit? How many more children chose cats than rabbits? And it comes in a minute. How many children chose dogs or cats? That's an interesting. So there's a few different questions going on here. Some of them are nice and simple, just straightforward reading. Some of them comparison. Some of them even sometimes we need to combine sections of data. So there's a bit more to it than just looking at a graph and going, okay, there's the numbers. But there's a key piece of information we need to understand before we start to answer these questions. And you might have already got there. Okay, but the key question is, okay, what size steps are on the scale? All right, so we can see the scale here. We can see now cat is nice and easy. That's probably the easiest one. You can tell me straight away how many children chose cat. Okay, that's a lot of kids. It's worth saying. But you can see straight away they chose this many children. That's 100 chose cat. But the question is, well, these other numbers, they're not. There's 2 issues with them. First of all, they don't hit a bar exactly. So that's an interesting thought. But also, what are these lines worth? And how are we going to work that out? Hopefully, you've noticed how many there are between 0 and 100 and 100 and 200. And you should then be able to do a very quick and simple division. And normally, a bar chart or a graph of any sort is going to have a fairly sensible scale. All right? It's not going to be like scaled in 7s or something. It would be a bit wild if a bar chart was scaled in 3.6s. You know, it doesn't make sense. So it will normally be a sensible scale. And you should hopefully have noticed that it's in 20s. All right. So each line is worth 20. And all of a sudden, the questions get a lot easier. And this is a good tip. All right. And I think it's going to bang this tip down here in a second. But using a ruler, drawing lines on our graphs is fine when we're trying to interpret them, and we can do that if they're printed off. If they're not printed off, you might have to think carefully about how you do that on the screen, but we can do this. Now, it's given us the answers to rabbits and cats. So question 1 is done, because once we've labeled things, once we're clear about what the scale is, then actually everything becomes very easy. All right, but the key thing is we're interpreting them. So we need to understand what the graph's telling us. We need to think carefully about the scale on the axis and what the information is telling us. We need to notice that this is a weird bar chart because it's a horizontal bar graph, which is fine, okay? But sometimes we'll have a vertical bar chart, sometimes we'll have different sorts of bar charts. Sometimes we'll have bar charts with things going both ways with different bits of information. That will come in today's work that you're going to try and do. So it's worth thinking carefully about what you're looking at. And there's your tip. Use a ruler to draw a line to the axis to read the number value from a scale. A straight line is a beautiful thing, girls and boys, and we need to be able to draw it. So the answers, all right? We know that 50 children chose rabbits. That's nice and easy. How many more chose children? children chose cats than rabbits. You should be able to see that. You can see how many chose cats. You can see how many chose rabbits. None of this maths is actually hard, is it? But it's just about the finding of the answers. It's 50 again. And how many children chose dogs or cats? So how many children chose? So we're gonna combine those things. Okay. Hopefully you can see that it's 100 and 150, which is 250. So you can see once we've worked out what the graph is telling us, actually answering questions about it should be straightforward, but we need to read the graph carefully and think about what we're looking at. So another sort of graph is a line graph, okay, or chart. We have bar charts with charts and graphs. And so here is a line graph to show the increase in weight of a dog, okay. And here is, especially in line graphs, here's where the axes become really important. In a bar chart, the axes are normally fairly self-explanatory. These ones down the side in the last bar chart were just names of things, and that's often the case. In a line graph, we will always have numbers on both sides, okay? And so we can see our y-axis here is weight, all right? The y is the up and down one, okay? And our x-axis is months. So over the month, the dog increased in weight. It didn't go down at all, okay, which is good, which means it's a fairly healthy dog, okay. If a dog starts to lose weight, we're thinking, I've got troubles. But this dog increased in weight steadily through the first 18 months of its life. Actually, it did lose a little bit right at the end there, okay, when it reached probably its, by the time it gets to a year old, a dog is normally roughly as big as it's going to get. So you can see it started to go down a tiny bit, okay. And this is a bit harder because the scale is nicely done for us, but actually some of the places where the scale reaches to are going to be a bit more tricky. So sometimes when we've got this sort of graph, we're going to have to use our best guess. Okay, so here's a few questions about this dog. All right, what's the puppy's weight at 1 month old? What's the puppy's weight at 3 months old? Estimate the dog's weight at 2.5 months old. Okay, when it's saying estimate, that means we're using our best guess, and then again at 4.5 months old. How old was the dog when it reached 40 kilograms? And again, a good thing to do, especially with a line graph, is to use a ruler, all right, and think, right, how am I going to do this properly? How am I going to make this work? And draw the lines from the different parts of the graph to the line that's in the middle. This is the important thing here, and then see where it goes to here. So you'll see we can do that. It's going to do that for us in this graph. Okay, so here we go. The first question I think it's going to answer is the puppy's weight at 1 month old. Okay, so it draws a little line here. You ready for it? There we go. Okay, I've done 2. That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? It's done 3 answers. Beast. Okay, so we can see here, here's 1 month, and they drew a perfect line, and they stopped when they hit the line graph, the line on the graph. Okay, and then they went across here, and they're going to say approximately 4 kilograms because it's less than half way to 10. So we can say, okay, we can be fairly confident that's less than half. 4 is less than half. 5 is half. It's, it could 3.5. We don't know exactly, do we? Unless we had the data set, in which case we wouldn't need to look at the graph. And again, this was 3 months old. We went up here and across here, and it's more than 10. We're using our wisdom, we're using our maths eyes to look and think, what are the numbers here? We could get a ruler out and measure the distance and be exact about it, but I think we can roughly say that's 12. This one's very close to 10, probably 9, maybe even 9 and a bit. Okay. How about the dog's weight at 4.5 months old? So where's the line that they're going to draw in a minute going to go, do you think? Have a look at my graph. They're going to draw something. See if you can have a guess. This one is actually a bit easier. Even without a ruler and a pencil, you could probably look at this now. Where's 4.5 months? Which axis are we starting on? Hopefully you said the x-axis, and we're going to go 4.5, and we're going to go a nice straight line up. This might be a nice round number, mightn't it? Can you see? It's 20, I think. Okay, nearly exactly 20. And again, we can't be perfectly exact, but we're close. This one, again, another fairly straightforward one. Okay, although getting back down to the which axis we're going to start on, is it going to be the x-axis this time or the y-axis? Hopefully, you've noticed we're getting kilograms now, so we're starting at its weight. We want to know how old it was when it got to here. So we're going to draw a line across and think, where's it going to? So let's have a look. Down it goes, 9.5 months old. So that's a line graph, and using a ruler is a great idea. You don't have to You could probably have seen some of those things with your own eyes and just work them out, but it's helpful if you can use a ruler. You've got lots of different graphs today and tomorrow to look through and think about how to interpret them well. Remember, when we get to pie charts tomorrow, you need to start thinking about proportion. So you're thinking about quarters or halves or thirds, and it's really nice to you, the actual pie charts that they've drawn, they've broken them up into, they've shown you what the chunks are, because there's even little marks where there isn't a line or where there isn't a piece of pie marked. So you need to read it carefully, okay? You need to have a go. Talk to your parents if you're struggling, but do some good maths over the next couple of days. Read these graphs. I think this should be fairly straightforward. You should do some good stuff. Some of them are a little bit confusing, but I'm looking forward to hearing how you got on. Do some great maths. Have some fun. See you soon. Bye.